Welcome everyone to our presentation, Understanding Your Rights with Dealing with Nursing Home Negligence, a guide for family and residents. I am Terry Fields. I'll be your presenter for today. I'm here with my law partner, Danielle Bess, who is also on the call. I am one who I'm always going to tell you, I get bored listening to the sound of my own voice. So if you have any questions, I think you all have the ability to unmute yourself. Feel free to just let me know if you have any questions or put it in the chat and I will be alerted that way. So again, let's go ahead and get started. We try to keep these to about 30 minutes because we understand everyone's busy. So by way of introduction, what is nursing home negligence? Generally, we're talking about a failure to provide standard of care to nursing home residents that they are entitled to. So that would go under the category of neglect. And also, we're talking about active abuse or active mistreatment. So it could be an act of omission or an act of commission that we're talking about. So the standard of care, you can imagine regular feedings, bathings, activities, things of that nature is what we're talking about. Other examples there on the page: inadequate staffing, improper medical care, neglect of basic needs, and emotional abuse as well. All of that will fall under the category of what we are talking about. So recognizing sign of neglect, before we talk about your rights, we need to talk about what it is that that we need to recognize as being abuse. So we're talking about unexplained bruises, cuts or sores, sudden weight loss or dehydration, poor hygiene or untreated medical issues. And then also we mean depression or anxiety, withdrawal from activities, and changes in personality or behavior. So generally, we're talking about a nursing facility or a care facility where your loved one is located and you can notice these signs. One of the themes that I'm going to return to very often in this talk is you have to visit. You have to observe the condition of your loved one. You have to know when there's a change. So if there was a bruise now and there wasn't a bruise last week, you can see that can be a sign of something's going on. And then also if you saw a bruise last week, if you see how it's healing, if it doesn't look like it's healing properly, that can also be an indication of something going on. So in order to see the signs, you have to be there to observe it. So those are some of the signs that you can observe in a loved one. All right. Just wanted to let you all know about, we're getting into the rights. So there are some federal rights. There's the Nursing Home Reform Act of 1987, and there are also some state-specific regulations. And I'm going to talk with you a little bit later about two state agencies, especially here in Georgia. Of course, our law firm, we can handle cases anywhere. We have cases in several different states, but just focusing on Georgia because that's where we're here. We're here in Georgia, and you're more likely from Georgia as well. But so we have state-specific regulations for Georgia that we'll talk about, some agencies that we'll talk about. So the rights that nursing home residents and their loved one have include the right to a dignified existence. That includes proper clothing, proper treatment, proper grooming, proper activity, proper stimulation, not just being put in a room and closing the door, not being allowed to just lay in a bed all day. So the right to a dignified existence. So loved ones and nursing home residents have the right to be fully informed. That starts at intake, making sure that you're getting the proper care facility for your loved one and that you're getting the benefit of all of the extra services that you may have asked for or paid for. The right to participate in their own care, the right to be advised. What is the recommendation of the doctors and the other healthcare providers? And the right to participate in that. And just saying, oh, if there's a choice between two alternatives, I want A rather than B, or vice versa. Also, the right to confidentiality. Everyone has the right to dignity and not having their personal information disseminated, whether it be to other nursing home residents or all over the staff, to staff members who don't need to know, or to family members who don't want it disclosed. There will be places on the intake documents where the proper designees are are placed there on the documents, the people who it's appropriate to discuss with, I hope I'm making sense. The people who is appropriate to discuss the medical condition should be designated on those intake documents. And that's the only people that should be privy to any conversations about a medical condition. And then the right to complain without fear of retaliation. And complain gets such a bad rep as a word, but it is just feedback about the experience that the resident is having, whether it be a negative experience or a positive experience. There is a right to voice those concerns. All right, so we'll go through each one. So the right to dignity and respect, I kind of went over this just now. So have the right to be treated with dignity, respect, and consideration. The right to privacy, including privacy in their personal space and during medical treatment. And I'll just share a brief story that I had. I have done a lot of work in nursing homes in the past. And I do remember just going into rooms with several residents just laying there all day. That's all they do. They maybe prop the folks up to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but they're just laying on the side and maybe just staring out of the window. And that's not necessarily being treated with dignity and respect and consideration. So just let me know if you have any questions as we go along. So the right to be free from abuse and neglect. And again, abuse is more of an active type of treatment. Neglect would be a refraining from acting. So residents have the right to, of course, to be free from sexual, financial abuse, physical, emotional abuse. And then they should be treated promptly, carefully, every day, bathed every day, or in line with the instructions from their loved ones. They should be fed every day. They should be stimulated appropriately and have the necessary medical attention. There are some horror stories about residents developing conditions which obviously show that they have been neglected for a very long time. And when I say that, I mean pressure sores, which indicate that they haven't been moved or rotated the way that they should be. Even more serious medical conditions allowed to advance without any medical intervention at all. So we know that they have been neglected in these facilities. So it's important for family members. Sometimes you would say, well, I'm paying them, they're in this facility, they should be cared for. But a lot of times that is not the case. The care is not being taken. We see a lot of that sometimes the personnel that is hired, they get jaded, and there's a lot of turnover in these positions, and they burn out, and then they just don't do what they're supposed to do. And so that's why it falls to us as loved ones sometimes to make sure that our nursing home residents are receiving the treatment that they're entitled to. So they have right to access to medical care, the right to choose healthcare providers if there is a choice, and to be involved in the decision about their healthcare. They have the right to adequate and appropriate medical care and to be fully informed about their condition and any treatment options. They have the right to complain, like we talked about before, the right to file complaints. And it's important to know where to file the complaint. I would always encourage to make a complaint at the facility itself, maintain a copy of that for your own personal records. And if it comes to the point where you would need an attorney, you would want to provide that complaint to the attorney. And if I were you and it were me, I had a loved one in these nursing homes, I have any inkling that my family member is not being treated well, or my loved one is not being treated well, I would complain loudly and often and maintain a record. It's easier than ever in our day and age where we all have cameras that can help us document. You can keep a record right there on your phone, and just keep it for your records, because a lot of times when it gets to the point of litigation, it helps us to establish at least a pattern of behavior from the nursing home facilities, whether they've been responsive. It's all just very important. So the residents have the right to complain as well as their loved ones. So start with the facility itself. So, and then we'll talk about state and regulatory agencies here in Georgia where you can lodge your complaint. So Residents have the right to participate in social, religious, and community activities of their choice. They have the right to organize and participate in residence councils within the facility. So I think that speaks for itself. They have the right to make their personal decisions, including managing their finances and making choices about their daily lives, right to decide when they wake up, go to bed, and what they eat. Of course, that's in line. It depends. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis, depending on the medical providers, the conditions that the resident has. But yes, they have a right to be involved in that decision. All right. And to the extent that it just doesn't make sense for the residents, they have a right to, like we talked about previously, lodge that complaint. They have the right to be informed of services and charges. So the residents themselves and their loved one, whoever is responsible for selecting the facility or selecting the charges or the services that'll be provided to the residents, they have a right to know exactly what it is, how those services will be provided, and a written copy of their rights upon admission. Again, this is something, your intake package upon admission is something that you should maintain, keep in a safe place just for making sure that the nursing home is doing what they're supposed to do. And then, God forbid, in the case that it arises to litigation, that there be that information as a baseline for us to move forward. All right. They have the right to manage their own personal funds. Of course, this is in the case that the resident does not have a conservator or a guardian appointed for them. If they do have a conservator appointed for them, of course, that conservator will be managing the personal funds, but by no means should the nursing home be taking charge of the resident's finances. That is the resident's own personal right to do. And I would definitely recommend that they not turn over their finances to a nursing home, because then they have every incentive to charge and not provide the services with there being no oversight. So I'll just read this. They have the right to manage their own money, to choose someone else they trust to do so for them. They should receive financial records if the facility manages their funds. So that's something that I see very rarely, but I would definitely recommend against having a facility manage their funds. They have the right to transfer or discharge at any time. They have the right to be transferred for medical reasons, for safety reasons, or for whatever reason. So again, this is your right to autonomy. Of course, this right is going to be governed by the contract that the resident signed coming into the facility. But of course, we know those contracts are subject to countervailing state laws and city laws. So if there is a contract provision that states the facility is entitled to 30-day notice before the resident moves, however, the resident is being abused, that would be seen as a proper reason to break the contract and have the resident move out of the facility. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis. But I always like to say we have amendments to our Constitution that prohibit the free movement of us as United States citizens. So that applies to nursing home residents as well. So they would have the right to transfer to another facility or just be discharged from the facility as the circumstances allow. So they have the right to legal counsel, the legal counsel of their choice. If they believe their rights have been violated, they may pursue legal action against the facility or responsible parties if abuse or neglect is suspected. So we could talk more about responsible parties, and there I'm talking about nursing home staff and personnel, also guardians or conservators for the nursing home resident, and of course the facility itself. So right to family and advocates. And for some folks in a nursing home, it may be too late to foster those relationships, but I would just encourage anyone who just make sure you have those relationships with family or someone to come see about you. Or if you know of someone in a nursing home, make sure that you are seeing about that person. They have the right to have visitors and have people see about them. And they are the best advocates, the best check against nursing home abuse and neglect. And they're just invaluable to have as someone in a nursing home, or if you see that you're going that way, you want to make sure you foster those relationships with advocates and family members. All right, right to a safe and clean environment, just like anything on, just like restaurants that we go into. The nursing homes are subject to inspection uh, by states authorities. And so the cleanliness is very important. We can talk about infections and contamination. It's very important that people with vulnerable health be in safe and clean environments, and that is actually a right. So the facility must take steps to prevent and address hazards that could lead to any harm. So I think we can all understand why that would be very, very important. Right to privacy, I touched on this a little bit earlier. They have a right to their personal privacy, their personal dignity. Some of us are more modest than others as far as changing our clothes and just the way that we are maintained in a facility. How some folks, I've been in nursing home facilities where the residents are just in nursing gowns all day. And maybe that's not in line with their personal dignity. So they're entitled to those kinds of things, and they're entitled to privacy of their medical condition, their medical records, their personal records, entitled to private communications, including visits, phone calls, and mail. They're entitled to keep that to themselves, to have something to themselves. Some of us are more private than others, so no matter what that level of privacy that is enjoyed, it should be maintained in this nursing facility. So a right to participate in care planning, that goes in line with a previous right that we talked about. Planning their care, including the development and review of their care plan, and they can invite family members or representatives to participate in care planning meetings as well. So if a nursing care facility is trying to keep the resident isolated and trying to pressure the resident or family members to make decisions that they may not be comfortable with, you should know that you have a right to be free from that kind of coercion. Okay. Right to freedom from restraints. So there are some horror stories that we've heard of and that may be going on, where nursing home residents are controlled by restraint, chaining them to chairs and beds and things of that nature, and or given medicine to chemically restrain them, to keep them docile. And residents have the right to be free from those kinds of restraints, because the facility, if they're taking on the resident, they are saying that they know how to handle this resident without physical or chemical restraint. And if they are not, they should advise the resident and their loved ones, their representatives, so they could find a facility who is equipped. But they should not just be resorting to physical and chemical restraints. All right, so here are the steps to take if you suspect any negligence. So document, keep detailed records, keep your own notes, keep a journal with everything. Write down names, because as I stated previously, a lot of times these nursing home facilities have turnover. They have very high turnover. So you might see someone different every time you go in and visit your loved one. And if you have a conversation with someone, you don't want to say, oh, it was the girl, she had braids and she was about 5 feet tall. No, you want to go ahead and get the folks' names. They have name badges. Write down their names, document everything, and keep all of your documents from intake and any documents that you get along the way. Just keep everything. You want to report the negligence or abuse to the nursing home administration and file a complaint with state regulatory agencies. We'll talk about what you would do in Georgia in just a second. You want to seek legal advice. So we have a law firm in South Atlanta, Injury Lawyers. You feel free to give us a call. It might not be the point in time when you're ready to pursue the case, but if you just want to talk about what you're seeing, what you're observing in the nursing home, we're more than happy to talk with you about that. Or if you are ready to pursue a case, we're always here and available. And then also consider moving the resident to another care facility. These defendants, if it gets to the point where you're suing and the defendant is countering our arguments, one of the things that they will say, that they will bring up, is that the resident is still at the facility. So what does that say about the treatment? So if the treatment is under a standard. And you can, if you have the means and the ability, you want to go ahead and move that resident as quickly as possible. So this is for Georgia residents to report abuse, neglect, or exploitation of an older adult. You want to contact the Georgia Department of Community Health, Healthcare Facility Regulation, and there is the phone number, 1-800-878-6442. You want to write that down, maybe even save it in your phone if you have a loved one who's in a nursing care facility. So as indicated here, they are the Healthcare Facility Regulation. So they are the oversight for the facility itself, and they could possibly help to remedy the situation for your loved one and for all the other loved ones in that facility. So we talked about DCH, but then also Georgia Adult Protective Services is the number is 1-866-552-4464. Now, this is where you can get an advocate for the resident themselves. And if necessary, if there is no loved one or no one available, the Georgia Adult Protective Services can appoint a guardian and can appoint someone to come see about this person. So DCH is over the facility itself, and APS actually looks out for the care of that person. And I'm just trying to check my time. I can't believe how fast time flies. I have 8 minutes. But let me know if you have any questions. We are running out of time. So who to contact for your state? I just gave you Georgia specific, but there may be a state long-term care ombudsman where you are if you're not in Georgia. Of course, Adult Protective Services where you are, and the State Department of Health. So again, you want to be very detailed. You want to include a description of the issue, any evidence or documentation you may have, any information on witnesses. So any staff that you're talking to. And what I've noticed about the cases that we litigate here at our law firm is a lot of times those staff at the healthcare facilities are very, very helpful. They will come forward and, yes, I did this. Yes, I did that. Yes, I saw this. Yes, I saw that. So you want to engage them. A lot of times they are your best bet to corroborate the story that you have, or to verify the information that you have. So there are a couple different types of legal actions. I'll start with the criminal charges first. Criminal charges in the case of abuse. So if I was just out on the street and hit someone, I could be arrested. It's called assault, battery. And that's the same in a nursing care facility. Doesn't matter that it's a staff member. If they raise their hand to strike or abuse someone, or if it goes on to the level of maybe even attempted murder, attempted, some of these more horrific crimes that we could think of, criminal liability will attach. Yeah, but those are like, you have to prove that this person was actively trying to harm this person. But that's when it rises to the level of criminal behavior. Civil lawsuits is more so what we deal with when it's more abuse, neglect type situations. But it's good to think about both, because if criminal charges attach, the criminal case, there is a constitutional requirement that those cases proceed quickly. So they could help, we could very often get the information from the criminal case to help on the civil side. So you can have them both proceeding parallel, but the criminal case will often go quicker than the civil case. So potential remedies, of course, we always have money, damages that will come directly to the plaintiff, to the patient for their medical expenses. Then you get damages for pain and suffering as well, which is not necessarily attached to medical expenses, but it is compensation to the plaintiff. And then you also have punitive damages. Under Georgia law, punitive damages, a measure of punitive damages goes right to the state. But it's assessed against the defendant to punish the defendant for their outrageous, crazy, just outrageous behavior. So role of an attorney, what we do, we get in, we'll investigate the case, we'll gather evidence, we'll contact the defendant, we'll send a comprehensive demand over, which includes all of the damages and all of the medical bills and expenses. We'll send that over and we negotiate settlements. So you want an attorney who has the experience and the good track record in similar cases, someone that you feel comfortable with. So again, to prevent future negligence, I told you I was going to hammer on this: frequent visits to monitor care as essential. You want to maintain open lines of communication. So you want to be nice to the staff, not just the staff dealing with your immediate loved one, but all the staff, because their eyes are always open. They're seeing what's going on. So you want to make sure that you have that relationship so they can tell you. You want to know the facility before you even put your loved one in. There's so many facilities, so many choices. A lot of them could be in the same system. So the system of the nursing homes may have a reputation, and then that particular location may have a reputation. So it's good to look into all of those. And you may want to participate in resident and family councils, talk to other residents, go visit, talk to other residents, and see what their experience has been. So, okay, so there's some resources right there. I think we talked about local resources, and then you can research those in your particular states. So the takeaways, again, we got about 5 minutes, 3 minutes left. Oh my goodness. Be vigilant and informed about the care your loved one is receiving. Understand your rights, know the steps to take. We're going to have this presentation available for future review. If you want to take a look at it or review anything that I've said, of course, I'm always here. I'm Terry Fields. If you have any questions about anything, but I wanted to open it up. Did anyone have any questions? Okay, hold on. There may be additional. Yes, thank you so much. We have Attorney Hopewell on the line. I see you. Thank you so much. She says there may be additional criminal charges for elder abuse. Yes, over and above assault. Absolutely. That's absolutely right. Yeah, that's right. Elder abuse. There's an actual statute in Georgia that proscribes elder abuse. So if that's happening, if like you punch someone who's 20, yeah, that's a crime. But if you punch someone who's 75, that's an aggravated crime. That's elder abuse. So thank you so much for that. Okay. All right. So hold on. So this is just some information about our law firm. We're South Atlanta Injury Lawyers. That's our phone number, 470-WIN-4U. Again, any questions, you let us know. Here's where you can reach us we are on the social medias. I think media is already plural, but we're on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So that's where you can reach us. And if you have enjoyed this presentation, please find us on Google and leave us a 5-star Google review. We will be back here, same bad time, same bad channel. We'll be here on September 25th at 11:30 a.m. We will shortly circulate the link for our upcoming webinar. So my law partner, Danielle Best, will lead us through a discussion of how to choose a safe nursing home for your loved ones. Please go ahead and put it on your calendar, Wednesday, September 25th at 11:30 a.m.